Welcome to the Downtown, brought to you by Arlington Citizen Media. I am Daryl Smith Jr., and across the city and across the internet for me is...
I am Rody John, and to my left is, well, Amy is on assignment, so she will return next week.
In this episode, we talk to Chris Dobson, who is running for a city council for District 7, that's an at-large seat, about politics in the time of a pandemic, how schools are being affected, and how they're handling distance learning, and more. So what have you been up to this week, Rody?
I have been out working. We, in the liquor industry, are doing quite well.
I see that. Like, sales are up.
Big time. And I'm also trying to do my part with buying local beer from Legal Draft and Division. Also hitting up the local restaurants, trying to get some to go. Got to eat local and drink local.
What did you eat this week locally?
Oh, man. I know you had hurtado, didn't you?
That was last week, but this week we did. I feel like we ate somewhere, but now I can't remember where we ate. We ate someplace this week. We did support a small business somewhere this week.
Yeah,
we went to Nino's. We went to Nino's actually.
That's we did. I had Dino's this past week as well.
No, not Dino's. Nino's.
Oh,
sorry.
Nino's. I'm
sorry.
The
pizza place.
I went to Dino's, the sub place.
So we both went to a Nino's place.
We did.
Okay. But it's good. I mean, that's really kind of the only thing you can do at this point to, help the businesses out there that are still able to be open.
Buy gift cards, buy takeout, buy stuff to go, and help these local businesses.
Yeah. So aside from that, though, I have not been doing much except for going. I go to work every Monday, but after the rest of the week, I get to work from home, luckily. And then I just hang out with my family and help my kid do the distance learning that Chris was talking. It's tough. The teachers are doing a great job. That's not what makes it tough. Like, they're doing as good of a job as they can, and they're very receptive and supportive. What makes it tough is, like, I'm still, supposed to be as productive at home as I am at work, but I can't be because I'm trying to do two jobs, essentially. I'm trying to help my kid, my kids learn, and I'm also trying to do my job, and it's very hard to do both.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are having that struggle right now as to how they actually do go about teaching their children while also trying to do their job that is paying for, everything around them. So, I mean, I could say just keep fighting that fight.
Yeah, luckily, it's the distance learning is not quite as tough as it could be. But they're not. It's not like they are doing everything that they would be doing in school at home now. I think the school, AISD is really good about being we're not going to have parents who are able to do this full time. So, and they're doing a good job at limiting the number of things that the kids have to do. And I think I read that they're going to a pass-fail grading system in grades 3 through 12. So that's good too, because they're not going to be like, oh man, you made a 60 on this because your teacher wasn't there to teach it to you, and your parents who have no idea how to do math today. Because the math is different. It is. They're teaching them a different way to do math than you and I learned, for instance.
Right. I remember my parents having the same situation when we were going through school. They were looking at it this isn't math to me.
Well, even the way they go about teaching math now is different. We used to carry the one and stuff like that. They don't do that. They have an entirely different way of looking at math. And from what I understand, it is better. But from someone that's not how you were taught, I look at it and go, I don't know what the hell you're doing. But, like I said, the teachers are doing great. AISD is doing great. And the AISD is still feeding kids. You can, if you have a child in AISD, you can go up there every day to any number of schools around the city and get a breakfast and lunch. It's lunch for that day and then breakfast for the next day. So that's really great.
Yeah, I've seen those lines driving around, and I think that's amazing.
Well, and it's nice that the school AISD was, they know, a lot of our students are on free and reduced lunches, and sometimes this is kind of the only thing that they get to eat. So it's nice that they continued that in such an uncertain time. I know that's kind of a cliche and overused way to describe what we're all going through right now, but it is what it is, right? Like, we are
Yeah.
in uncertain times. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen with this virus. We don't know what's going to happen with the economy, especially for a city like Arlington that relies so heavily on sales tax. And right now, that coffer's dried up. So
Right.
it's uncertain times, and it is what it is.
I mean, there is no such thing as a new normal because a normal means it has to be consistent. So everything's changing day to day, hour to hour. So we just have to keep trying to do what we can do and make the place better whenever we can actually go back out into it.
Yeah, and I think even when we do go back out into it, it's going to be different because I don't imagine we're going to be locked in our houses for the next year and a half. So, like, that's not going to happen. But because the vaccine is at least 12 to 18 months away, if we're lucky, it may be more that eventually we all just get this and we have some sort of degree of immunity to it, or we don't, and that's terrifying. But we'll not talk about that right now. So. Just keep on doing what you're doing in Arlington to help support those businesses. That's really all you can do, and take solace in the fact that during this weird time, you get to kind of dial down on the things that are important to you.
Right.
For me, it's all this time with my family, being able to go for a walk every day, after lunch and after dinner, and I'm waving to my neighbors now, like that was something that I didn't talking to them. That's not something I did before, but I think because we're all put in this weird situation where we're just trying to make it work and trying to be human to each other, which, there's something to be said about that. And I hope that lasts. It may not, but maybe it will.
I'm very hopeful that it will. And especially here in Arlington where we're used to saying hi to each other anyway, it's good to go other places and hearing about other people having to do the same thing now.
All right. Well, we're here with Chris Dobson, local political figure and ally of everything important going on in our fair city. How are you today?
I am at home. I got my son. We're doing pretty well. I suppose in days like this, we have new standards of how we're doing, right?
That's true.
Yeah. So, I really want to thank y'all for having me back on again. I really enjoyed our first time, and I want to say that I have even expanded my pizza options since last time we talked.
Tell us
So,
more.
if I remember, I had mentioned Moni's, Saljo's, and Nizza Pizza the last time we talked, but given the situation, I've now also gone to Vito Vito in Pantego. That's really nice.
Where is the location?
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
So it's in the same parking lot as David's Barbecue, kind of across the street from Pantego Christian Academy. So it's I think a little bit more Italian. They have all the other dishes to go along with it. It's not just pizza. So it's I really enjoyed the pie I got. I went with the deep dish Sicilian style square and lots of toppings. It was delicious.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Okay, so
Saljo.
shameless plugs being what they are,
Yeah.
I have no business with them. But it's amazing the kind of effect this thing is having where, even now delivery is becoming more and more important. They're almost essential workers in some ways.
They are. And speaking of, COVID, that's kind of why we wanted to talk to you and get you on is, we wanted to talk about the effect that this kind of unprecedented, social distancing thing that we've got going on here. Everybody's quarantined. There's no school. It's affecting literally every aspect of our lives. But in particular, how is this affecting politics and more specifically local politics here in Arlington?
Okay, all of our public campaign events have been canceled, so there's not really a chance to go out in public to see local politicians speak about their programs at candidate forums. Our actual city government actually just did their first teleconferencing city council meeting on Tuesday, where it was just the mayor and a skeleton crew at City Hall, and all of the other councilmen called in on video to the meeting. So we're seeing a lot of change happening very quickly as we start to adjust to the kind of existential threat of interpersonal contact. It's really crazy. So on the federal levels, on the federal level, they've stopped all campaigning pretty much, and that's true through, at least as I've seen, more local politics. It's basically at every level of government, they've declared a state of disaster or state of emergency to allow for different policies to take place to confront the virus. One of the ones we did on the state level was to move our election, as best we know, to the November general election for city council.
Right.
The governor can specify another date before that where we can have an election, but I imagine that we'd get at least 45 days notice of that happening. Right now, all local campaigns have been made aware that campaign filing reports have been delayed, which, as far as a politician goes, these are kind of the important documents. With the next one coming this summer, just the semi-annual campaign form. The usual forms are dated by date from election, so 30 days out, 8 days out. And so we don't really have a good date on when those are going to be yet. So like I said, it is affecting all levels of politics. It seems like there is a trend towards podcasting. We've seen Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders both do sort of at-home videos with various levels of success and technology coming in as far as calls from the public, interaction with the public just generally. So it looks like we're kind of confronting the 21st century technological gap at the same time that we're kind of reinventing how we do politics.
We're kind of doing that right now by having this conversation through Skype. So
yeah, we're definitely not exempt from the rules.
Right.
It's one of those things where theoretically we could be in the same room, but the risk of that is not worth the reward. We're doing pretty well, I think, just over the phone. But one of the other things we're going to have to look at is changing the formats of election. Right now, it's early voting, day of voting, absentee balloting, which they allow for people that are sick. So in theory, anybody that has COVID won't have to come to the poll when we actually do have the election. And this is, weirdly enough, one of the things that we learned from the 1918 Spanish flu, where we also had an election, is that there was a correlation between the general election in November and increased mortality. Places that had 5 days of electioneering and then a day of voting saw greater death in the coming weeks. Obituaries were larger, which is generally the way we're measuring or